Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to this session entitled A Different World, an Introduction to Running a Virtual Event. My name is Tom and I work for .coop, which is the global registry for the .coop domain name. As the title of this talk states, my objective in this session is to ensure that any business suddenly faced with the challenge of hosting an event purely in the virtual realm is best equipped to make this transition. If done correctly and with appropriate research and planning, then it is certainly the case that a virtual event can be as effective and valuable as its real-world counterpart. This is of vital importance as the online conference is here to stay. Especially with the events of this year, it is an ongoing real alternative when compared to the traditional physical gathering. This is a beginner's session, and it will outline some of the challenges and advantages of transferring a traditional physically attended conference into a completely virtual experience. We will also cover off how to maximize the benefits without sacrificing any of the effectiveness or value for those who are participating. I've therefore divided this session up into several chapters, and each of these comes under its own heading. So what are these three chapters of the session? Well, first of all, we will look at the advantages and the challenges of holding an event online. While there are certainly many obvious upsides to not requiring physical presence, there is also an array of unique factors that will need to be mitigated to ensure everyone attending will extract the same, if not more, value from participating. Secondly, we will look at the technical structure of an online event. Certainly, every one of these will have a unique appearance based on the specific requirements of it, but there are some common themes that should be adopted to provide the complete experience. One main point to keep in mind during this session is that it is a beginner's guide, and the themes outlined here can be applied to any level of virtual gathering. From something maybe as small as a brainstorming session between a group of co-workers up to a multinational conference held over several days with maybe thousands of attendees. These general ideas will be applicable to all manner of these. Thirdly, we will briefly touch on some milestones that might need to be considered by the planner in the run-up to the holding their event, as well as some of the options for those who are all ready to start the journey or maybe have even begun to go down the path of holding their own event. We would have all seen how in the last year that there has had to be massive changes to the way that businesses operate, and many have had to plunge headfirst into new and complicated methods of working. Not only have the businesses had to adapt, but also the audiences. This is none more evident when we consider online events. This is a scenario where not only those that are hosting the event have had to need to learn new ways of doing what they want, but those involved at the end of the chain also have had to learn new skills and cope with new innovations. This can seem daunting, and thus at the heart of every event, as always, we should remember the golden rule of keeping things simple, engaging, and as user-friendly as possible. Letting go of this traditional format, particularly if it's a recurring event that has been honed and perfected over many years, and it can be a difficult task. As an event organizer, keeping an open mind will be key to maximizing the potential of any new format. It does sound like a big ask to undertake a new venture and then expect the same, if not a better result than a tried and tested method. However, with good planning and good research, this goal is certainly possible. So let's start off by looking at why a virtual conference can be a better proposition than actually meeting in person. Advantages. First of all, the audience won't have to cherry-pick sessions that fit their schedule anymore. With recorded seminars, everything can be attended, and with the right setup and enough time and access, a virtual attendee can extract literally every possible offering an event has. This was simply impossible to the same degree under existing physical formats. Secondly, with robust question and answer systems, along with voting and virtual chat technology, then no quiet voices need go unheard, and the important questions can be answered. It is certainly the case that dominant personalities can sway conversational topics, But online, even the quietest voice can link directly with experts, session leaders, or workshop hosts. With online breakout sessions, chat rooms, and interviews, then attendees can also ensure that they maximize their value by speaking with those that they really need to. No more chasing around a conference for that one person you need to find, or finding a quiet place to get down to business. Peer-to-peer messaging now makes connection easy, and with the right setup, it can also make gatherings a key group of individuals really simple, a matter of maybe a few clicks. This is essential, particularly when time and attention are commodities. With streaming of content through specific channels, it becomes even easier to get sponsor and partner messaging in front of delegates in the right way. This maximizes the value for revenue spent by your event partners, and it can go a long way to making collaboration with your event seem attractive as well. Lastly, online events are highly measurable. With the right analytic suite, you can have a full spectrum of results and attendee behavior at your fingertips. You will also be able to see with a hitherto unattainable level of accuracy just what it was about your event that was engaging, what did your attendees actually find the most valuable, and what was it that made the least mileage in terms of your effort to results ratio. With these advantages outlined, now let's look at some of the fundamentals an online event planner needs to consider when facilitating the above. Well, the technical requirements that allow them should be considered too, but we will examine this later on when we look at how the actual structure of an event can be organized. In addition to the tech side, the following points are advisable. First of all, starting with clear instructions aimed at the most basic level of technological competency is very desirable. There is a common mistake in assuming a level of tech know-how in an audience, or not making directions and instructions clear enough to be easily comprehended. This can be even more so when you're looking at multiple languages. This can have a very real and immediate effect on client satisfaction, and it might even cause a bottleneck which prevents or dissuades further participation. Secondly, it is advisable to facilitate plenty of opportunity for easy interaction. As mentioned above, online there is ample opportunities for allowing people to connect quickly and easily. This should be made a key feature and centrally accessible to allow quick peer-to-peer or group communication. Many people attend physical events primarily to network rather than to consume the content, and therefore this function is as essential as all the workshops, sessions, or seminars that can be provided. Now we've explored the advantages, now let's have a look at some of the challenges that can be experienced by those that are holding and attending a virtual event. Participation of attendees online can easily become passive. Without people in the room, then the engagement can drop off, and with participants then reverting to an observer model. It is also not possible in many cases for a session or seminar leader to gauge the reactions of their audience, and this can make it difficult to adjust in real time. Timings become even more crucial to maintain attention when the options for spontaneity in this way can be limited. Secondly, distractions. With people fitting the event around their home or work life, rather than taking time away specifically to attend this event, then there's a danger that without fresh reminders, the promise of exciting content or value, that people will simply forget or be too busy to make space in their lives for the conference. Attendees will also even have more chance to break away from the content without any fear of disturbing other people. This is a very common challenge for anybody that's experienced in the worlds of education or training provision. Lastly, the lack of preparation in contributors can be a factor. The virtual conference is at the cutting edge of innovation, and if contributors are not well prepared enough for the differences in holding sessions when compared to the virtual world in their usual setup, then there can be a risk that their message does not get across effectively or can be hampered by the format. Luckily, mitigations for the above points are many and varied. And as event planners have become more used to the format, as well as attendees becoming more comfortable, then there are major options that can be harnessed to foster and keep engagement. Alongside this, there's new technologies and new techniques to make the transmission of content as effective as possible. Here are some of the main concepts to bear in mind when planning a virtual gathering to mitigate some of the challenges that we've faced. First of all, when the event is in its run-up, notifications and reminders should be sent multiple times at decreasing intervals. Not just reminders of timings and what's going on, for example, but also you need to make clear instructions available of how people are going to actually attend your event and their options for doing so. This keeps the event at the forefront of the minds of those who are actually wanting to attend, and also keeps the accessibility easy. This should be run alongside any other messaging that will ensure there is enough buzz about the event or giving people information about the content. Secondly, during the event, it is often a benefit to add in some system of gamification, some fun application, or competitive achievement. This can be as simple as collecting interactions with as many people as possible, or as complex as a ranked board of achievement for those who engage in cross-sharing or content creation in social media. Many commercial options for hosting a virtual gathering include gamification packages or other apps that can be incorporated seamlessly into any event setup. We at .coop have an actual living examples of how this sort of gamification can really drive engagement and create excitement even amongst those who are not actively participating in the event. It is also often of a benefit to heavily encourage the participation of the audience in a session to stimulate a diversity of opinion and also hold their attention. This can be achieved via a variety of methods. Some of the most tried and tested are being live Q&A feeds, live polling, and breaks for active participation if the session is structured like a lecture. Ensuring that the content creators are well aware of these points before they submit their material for the event can help towards user satisfaction when being online means a larger amount of these sessions are needed to be delivered in a lecture style of format, particularly if the sessions are extended in time. In terms of the new format being a boon for contributors, there is no better example than the recorded or the semi-live session. When the material is pre-prepared, it runs while the provider is also on hand, and this means it goes out when the content provider is free to monitor, answer questions, and deal with issues rather than focusing solely on just delivering a session. This gives a lot more space for attendees to interact and develop narrative in their sessions. Now let's look at the technical structure and format of how a session might look. Recently, there's been a wealth of new apps, systems, and software designed to help people connect virtually. With a strong and well-researched list of objectives and requirements, there is a tech solution to every need. The number of providers is now staggering, and a cursory search will bring a host of reviews. This is a good place to start when considering what challenges you will have to address when holding an online gathering. In this next section, we're going to look at the technical structure of how a virtual event might look. Some of these requirements might need to be sourced independently from a number of different vendors, depending on your requirements. Though with the changes to the working demands of 2020, this has meant that there are some organizations, for example like Cvent, that are now offering a complete event package that will cover most of the eventualities. Here are some of the basic options that should be considered to give your attendees the best chance of getting what they need from a virtual engagement or experience. First of all, session, breakout session, and chat room provision. There are numerous options out there for any conference to stream individual sessions across a variety of platforms, but some key demands to meet are as follows. First of all, streamlined and smooth handling of many participants, often from a multinational user base and across a majority of modern platforms, is essential. Plus a robust system for the transmission of clean and clear video and pictorial media. Central control of attendee participation and places for users to meet, engage, and chat is important. Do not forget that a central control or messaging service is also necessary for announcements, security notifications, or failure of service mitigations. Attendee monitoring, voting, questioning, and participation provision. While it is key that passive observers are encouraged to become actively involved in the success of a virtual conference, this is preferable to them just feeling like they're being carried along in the stream. Essential tech will be required to allow attendees to provide their own commentary in this way, asking questions in a live setting about key issues, as well as to be involved with the session leaders themselves. Some key points to remember about this section are that you will require systems that allow problems to be raised, addressed, and quickly solved by the event staff when they arise. Redundancy systems that enable first-line failures to be overcome and mitigated too, such as drop out of a main session feed if there's a live stream or something similar. Plus, delegate open question and answers with experts and discussion leaders is also required to keep the collaboration moving amongst other avenues. Finally, there's easy and clear central authority and a structure required, making navigation easy. Much like a real-world conference, which we've all experienced, navigating any new environment can be a daunting and sometimes overwhelming experience. What is key for a virtual conference is just simply to ensure that this real-world factor isn't translated into the online environment. When it is so easy for people to disengage, there needs to be the clearest of structures in place to ensure that people are where they want to be as easily as possible. Without this, a virtual conference can easily become a sequence of just interconnected sessions and not actually a complete and memorable experience that an attendee will feel like it was worth investing in. So let's stick at this central hub theme for a second. Basically, the central and accessible hub will provide the core of an event experience. This can be in a number of formats. For example, a website with a user interface and a login, connection to a central phone app, or an integrated member system that allows access to all the spokes of the wheel of the event. This will ease navigation and make it a simple task for event coordinators to provide notifications. Any sponsorship and other information can be easily located here, and people can often start off and get their bearings before moving into the content. A first port of call like this for attendees, with clear timelines and session maps, speakers lists, and options for building a personal portfolio, will mean that attendees will remain invested from the get-go. This will also foster the appearance and the feeling of attending an actual event, and less like they are simply looking at a smattering of disparate materials. Now let's look at some of the stages that you will encounter on the road to hosting the perfect online experience, plus maybe some suggestions of what you should look out for. Some milestones to your event. First of all, the core strategy for implementation must be decided upon. At this point, the event will be mapped and the required technological aspects identified, and we can't really state it more emphatically that the more research that can be done at this stage, the better. It will ease bottlenecks in the process later on. We have first-hand experience of how you can start out, gain all the licenses and memberships for the applications that you require from your tech providers, only for later on down the line, the needs of your event or other requirements change and you are locked into something that doesn't fulfill your needs. It is important to do as much research and envisage every possible outcome that you might face before diving into that. Secondly, you will build the structure based on the results of how the research went and about your required assets. At this point, you will then procure them and test them and design how you want your event to look and feel. Once this stage has been completed, you'll move on to the population and preparation. Once the design is complete, then the placement of the materials and preparation for your contributors will be undertaken, ensuring always at this stage that there's an eye on the end user experience, particularly when there can be a temptation to just keep adding more content for content's sake, or trying to cover too wide a thematic base. Simplicity and focus are key strengths at this point, as you want to make the user experience as easy and streamlined as possible to avoid confusion down the line. Announcements and launch is the stage after this. And it is true that in the run-up to the event, it is less than half the battle than actually holding the event. But in the months and weeks before it starts, the notifications to users and those interested should be regular and very clear in their instructions on how to take part. As we said before, not just covering what is going on and when it is happening, but managing how people are going to attend and how they're going to make the best of it. Of course, the messaging will also be going around to create a buzz about what people can expect in terms of value. But one of the biggest hurdles to attendance will be users making that first step into attending the conference. How they do that needs to be upfront and extremely clear. Once the event is underway, there will be a large number of people that will need troubleshooting. Just like any real conference, people will become lost or confused when first attending the event. And this will cause a lot of work for those tasked to help via tech support or in the support chats. It is great practice to prepare well for this. In our experience, just a small group of dissatisfied users or those with complex problems can put a lot of workload on a support team in a very short space of time. A last point to consider is what your objectives are for the lifespan of your event or your plans for the future. When planning and holding something like this, it can be tempting to be consumed by the demands of producing and holding it. One thing to consider, however, is how the event will live on past its live date and how this can continue to contribute further to your goals and those of your attendees. Perhaps your event will become a regular occurrence, or a lot of important decisions or influential ideas will be discussed that will be important to people that weren't able to attend. In any case, you are likely to want to create some sort of permanent place for all the hard work that you, your team, and your content creators did, as well as provide a space for the advertisement and the information dissemination of your next event. One of the easiest ways to do this is to create a website that can host all the material that you need. A great cooperative example of this is the gyf20.coop website. The Global Youth Forum on Cooperative Entrepreneurship, which is also called the GYF20, took place in Malaysia in February 2020. The GYF20 was organized under the ICA EU partnership together with ANCASA and the ICA Youth Network. This brought together young entrepreneurs and professionals from all over the world and to offer them training. And it was a medium-sized event with 140 participants and 35 trainers. But though limited in size, it did create a lot of material, ongoing working groups, and also some connections that were required to keep going long after the event was finished. An example of how you can effectively continue the legacy of an event online, have a look at the gyf20.coop website. It hosts all the information that was available at the event, and even though it was not virtual, all the sessions were recorded and have been made publicly available to anyone who didn't actually want or be able to attend the event in person. It is also an important place to record the results of a conference, and with the addition of summaries and social media links, this creates the perfect place to begin developing your buzz for future events and anything that you might have planned leading on from it. I would like to mention at this point, as a cooperative network, one of the ways to clearly stand out online is to make use of the .coop domain name. Particularly for a website as the gyf20.coop site is, this can really help cut through the clutter of all the other different domain names that are out there and make your URL at the top of the site really say a lot about who you are. So this has been the .coop introduction to making the success of an online event. Before a Q&A session, I'd like to round up with some positivity. Technology has always leapt forward in times of adversity, and as many of you who have attended conferences years ago will know, things are better than ever. I once read a story where someone regaled us with the tale that not long ago, to attend a virtual conference successfully, they needed to be logged into Skype on their PC, onto Twitter on their laptop, on LinkedIn on their phone, and were still frantically taking notes on a pad and paper as things progressed. Gone are those days, and we should embrace this new medium with open arms. Chances are it is the future. We have come a long way in just 20 years. Since 1991, I'd like to leave you with a little fact that to check out the Trojan Room coffee machine. This was a feature of the very first webcam invented, and the coffee machine was sold to the German newspaper, the group Der Spiegel, for £3,000 and is still in use today, ever since 1991. Check out that little snippet to see how far we have come in virtual event technology. Now looking at spreading the message of cooperatives, I would welcome you to connect with us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at @.coop, or you can find us at the .coop Facebook page. And we are also running a media ambassador campaign and need you to help spread the cooperative message. You can find out more at identity.coop/media-ambassadors. And you can also see some examples of some cooperatives using the domain at identity.coop/stories. This is where we host a great deal of stories about cooperatives using the domain online and really making the most of the cooperative identity. I welcome connections. I would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, and anything else you want to connect with me about. Please send me an email at tom@identity.coop. I would love to hear about what sort of cooperative work you are doing, any virtual conferences you might be holding, or any other questions you have. Thank you so much for attending this session, and I wish you all the best of luck in any of your future endeavors. Thank you.